Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining in. Thank you to highly esteemed faculty members, being ably led by our dear Provost. Thank you, Professor Idowu, for gracing this meeting with your presence. And of course, to the Dean, under whose purview this class is holding. I recognize our professors. I don't want to mention names so that I won't skip anybody, but I see you, and I'm so grateful that you are able to join us. To our guests, we also welcome you. So today we are taking the second lecture in the series for the year 2024, the series on research and grantsmanship. Last week, 2 weeks ago, we had Professor Idowu take us on building a career, in research. Today's speaker is Professor Olufemi Idowu. He is the Deputy Provost of the Lagos State University College of Medicine, and he's a certified neurosurgeon. But today he's not talking to us about neurosurgery because it will go on and on, on that matter if we allow him. He's also the chairman of the Research, Innovation and Grants Committee of the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital. So who else to teach us how to find a grant? Professor Idowu, I yield the floor to you.
Good evening, colleagues, my Lord, spiritually and contemporary, and in the academic profession. So I'll be talking briefly about finding a grant, that is the pathways to finding a grant. So the first is to briefly talk about what are grants. These are generally money or resources or materials that a person or an organization gives to a recipient. And this is usually tied to a particular purpose. And these are not repayable. So they are given to the recipient to use and to support a specific initiative that the grantor wants. Because money is not unlimited. That's why some of these grants are actually very, very competitive. And it means that the selection process is usually very, very strict. What are the types of grants that we have? We have research grants, which is the one that attains to us most of the time as researchers. So quite a number of times we want to carry out our research, and some of them can be quite expensive. I mean, some can be as expensive as $500 million, 1 billion, in naira. So we will need grants for this. Sometimes there are educational grants, and there are some bodies that are more or less restricted to just giving educational grants. Sometimes we have community grants, and some grants are just for some small businesses. Overall, where do we have these grants being housed? We have quite a number of institutions, i.e. universities like us now. Hopefully, by the grace of God, before the end of the year, there's going to be another tranche that is going to be advertised. So no matter how small, there are still grants, few hundreds of thousands, millions, there are grants. In some institutions, even in the Western world, you have grants that are as 40 million equivalent in some of these institutions. So we should be aware of some of these local grants in various institutions, either locally or internationally. In fact, I was talking with someone recently, and the professor is a great neurosurgeon, one of the best researchers. I mean, over 500 papers, major NIH grants award person, and he was not even aware of a particular grant in his institution that was about $40,000, which was also open to virtually anybody in the globe. So we should not forget our own local grants or even other institutions that may exist. And there are community grants also in the locality. Some of them are scientific. We have corporate organizations. Some of these organizations are non-profit, some are for profit organizations. For profit organizations like Nestle, Pfizer, they give all kinds of grants, and these have they come in cycles. Then we have the non-profit corporate organization, Welcome, Spencer, various charitable organizations they give. Some of them can be quite, even I think Welcome can give as high as over $1 million or pounds. So there are some that actually give quite an enormous amount of funding. Then we have governments. Nigeria, we have the TED Fund. Internationally, there are so many. There are so many. We can continue to talk about them. I probably will not finish. But we try and touch on some before we end today's presentation. So just to try to tell us again about even our professional associations. We have various grants, stroke association, neurosurgery associations, all kinds of grants for early career, mid-career. All those grants are all over the place. And sometimes people go on crowdfunding, online platforms. You can, for one reason or the other, say, okay, this is what we're going to go in, and then we try to raise funds online. But we should not forget the government organizations, government agencies, where you have quite a lot of money that are reserved for some of these researchers. So let me just talk about a little bit about the international organizations. So various countries. We are English-speaking countries, so we try to talk about UK, US, Canada. The links are there that we can just have it later, have a go at them, and be able to see which ones that interest us. Now, I will try just to talk about using the US as a flagship, because this is where most funding, there's no other country that rivals the United States when it comes to funding for researchers. And the beauty of it is also that they are able to give to international researchers. They are quite liberal, although there are some that are restricted. But for any organization, before you can even be able to make use of this, you have to be registered. And luckily for us, LASUCOM is registered. I'm not sure of our parent institution. Maybe they have now. LASUT is registered as a research organization. So when you are registered, you have a DUNS number given to you, and then you'll be able to operate as a research organization. Because if you are not registered, there is no way you can get any funding from the states. Some other countries also, their registration are not as rigorous as that of the United States. That's why I'm using this as a flagship. Others, you can register and get all your registration within maybe 1 or 2 weeks. For US, minimum is 6 weeks. It's quite rigorous. So many things now, checks and balances that they have now put in place before you can register. Now, we now say, what are the pathways to be able to have a successful finding of a grant? We have to start somewhere. One of the ways is to have a strategy. Just like anything in life, you have a strategy, the tools, and then you're able to unlock your goal. Also, the first thing is for the individual, I'm looking for a grant this year. I would say you should have maybe 1 or 2 year plan. And then you say, okay, I'm trying to get a grant in the next 1 or 2 years. So what's the first thing I should do? You should chart your course. And now say, okay, I am a gynecologist. What is my area of interest? That's where you should just start. Okay, I want to get a grant within the next 2 years. What is my area of interest? So I would say the first thing is to discover yourself. What are your strengths? Okay, I am a gynecologist. I am interested in vesico-vaginal fistula. I know I have interest in this, and that is what I want to base my career on. Then you assess yourself, your goals. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are my opportunities? I.e., the opportunity may be that we have so many patients with vesicovaginal fistula. What are the threats? What are the threats? And what resources do you have? Because you must sort of know your own status locally. I was talking to someone that, okay, let's say you're a neurosurgeon, you want to do something on let's say, trauma. First thing is, how many patients can I get in a year? So if I know that I can get 1,000 patients, I already know that I have a very large pool of patients I can use. But if all you have is just 2 or 3 patients, when it has to do with a disease or a condition, that is, that you have so many patients in other places, that can be a major challenge for you. So we know your strengths, self-discovery, your resources that is available to you locally. Now, to me, this is a little bit different from some ways some other people look at it, but I will give this perspective. The moment you have an idea, you have an innovation, you have an area that you think you want to work on, vesicovaginal fistula, okay, and you think you have gotten something that is a little bit innovative. So the first thing is to go and do your literature review and try and get a specific aim of 1 or 2 pages. So, and this I try to do it in such a way that an introduction part of the specific aims, which include just about 2 sentences about this disease. Subdural hematoma is very common in the elderly and is a major challenge in Nigeria. What are the challenges? They usually reoccur, and this is a global problem. So which innovation are you trying to bring into this particular condition? Then you now state your overarching goal. So about 7 lines, 10 lines. Then the aim itself, what are you planning to do? I'm trying to A, B, C, D, trying to use this format, what, where, when, and how. And the how should include your outcome. And people should not forget that in your outcome, try and be specific. What am I trying to talk about? Okay, my outcome may be that I'm trying to look for, how am I going to measure it? Let me measure it. So it's like using SMART goals. What is specific? What is measurable? So be specific about whatever you are trying to talk about in your aim. And never forget the sample size and a power analysis of your population that you're planning to take. Then the moment you are able to catch that specific aim, a little bit of 2 sentences or so about the impact, and never forget the budget, no matter how small, and I think I'll talk about it in the next slide. But there are other people that will say, oh, write a full research proposal, maybe about 6 pages, 5, 6 pages. Yeah, you can do that. I just personally, I find it very difficult because I don't want to waste my energy. Then what if I don't get the funding? But if you have the time, I think it's a better strategy to be able to write a research strategy of about 5 pages and keep it and update it as the day goes by. And then when an opportunity comes, you're already relatively ready for the study. Because most of the time when grants opportunities open, you may find out that you have little time. And in that little time, trying to rush can take some time. A grant, most of the time, you need roughly about 2 to 3 months. I would say on the side of caution about 3 months. When it's less than 2 months, you are prone to mistakes. And I think unless you already have a research strategy or research proposal on one side, it will be difficult. But if you have a specific aims, I still think you can still pull through. So I always say a small budget, always have it at one side. Have an Excel. Just have an Excel somewhere where you can put this, because your budgeting, it must be by Excel. There is no other. Don't try to use any other method. because you don't want to start making schoolboy errors in your calculation. So an estimate doesn't have to be perfect. Personnel, generally for most budgets, that will be roughly about 40% of the total budget. So all your direct costs, try and slot in averagely maybe 5 to 8% of your indirect costs, and then you have a total. This is always good, and then just keep it somewhere that you have written your specific aims or you have written your research strategy, and then you move to the next stage. This to me is very important for us as researchers. We have ideas, we are at a word farm, or we just wake up in the morning before we pray, or anything, and you have this idea, this thing is something that is innovative, and I think is something that has not really been researched. Go into it, read it up, and then have a 1 or 2 page specific aims, and if you have the time, 5 to 6 page research strategy. Then, when you now have this, I think the next thing is you now start the active business. That is proactive searching. So I now have my specific aims on the table, 1, 2 page. Now, what next? We remember that searching for a grant, the pathway is a journey, it's not a destination. Your path, it may take you 1 year, it may take you 2 years. So you start active searching. And where does this one start? Collaboration, I say, is the key. We must not forget that how do we collaborate? Sometimes we have research groups. I think that was in early stage of our this in the Department of Surgery, we had a research group, and that was what we used to be able to get a grant with the Lagos State government. But this was a collaborative effort. So, and then because we were ready, and then there was an opportunity. And because we searched, oh yes, Lagos, somebody goes, oh yeah, there's another. So sometimes having this collaboration, talking to people, your research group member, it may just be someone that you think may not even know much, but be able to actually direct one to an available grant. Workshops, conferences. As we say, going for conferences and workshops is not just to go and listen, but to network. We should talk to one another, share our ideas. You never can say what's going to come out of it. I was talking to someone yesterday, and a guru when it comes to microbiome. And after talking to him, that he was asking whether can it be done. I said, we don't have the funds unless we have. And while he was talking, and I just made the statement, and the guy said, oh, he has never thought about that before, that he was going to try it in his lab immediately. So sometimes this is me that is talking to someone in a particular area, microbiology, that I have very little experience in, or just a statement. Him, a guru, he claims that it is 75% of his applications for NIH, he gets there. And I'm making one small comment, and he's able to tap into that. And so he's saying that he's going to go and try it in his lab the following day. So it's very good to always talk to colleagues, conferences, workshops, and this also can also bring some ideas on what you already have. So talking to our colleagues is very good. Going to conferences, workshops, various, very, very important. Now, the other part. Oh, yeah, I don't have anybody that I can talk to currently. I've talked to people, my association, they are not in the direction where I plan to go. There are many online databases. Yes, some of them you may have to subscribe by paying, but there are many more that you don't have to pay. They are free. So I start with the American one, that is grant.gov, register, subscribe, and then they regularly send you funding announcements, FOA. So for UK, NHR, UKRI, Canada, there are so many other there are just so many. There are just so many. So the slides can be shared. We can see send out again. I think we sent out some about 2 years ago to every staff in the hospital. So we can send that again. So there are so many, but I'll try and, as I said, I'll use the American one as a flagship because they have their own peculiarities, which can be relatively more stringent compared to other organizations. And finally, when we are doing proactive searching, we should not forget our social media groups. Sometimes just being on Twitter, tagging onto some of these organizations, Pfizer, Spencer, Welcome, whatever, so that when there is an opportunity, you instantly get some of these announcements. So social media is also a nice way of proactive searching for various grants opportunities. So now let's say there's an opportunity now. Vesical vaginal fistula, LMIC, and I said the first thing is to try and check, is it narrowed down to my area? Or can I, what I'm thinking of, can I still modify it a little bit to fit into that area? The moment you see that it's in your area, so that you don't waste time, energy, time, and money, I always advise that the next thing is check for eligibility. Read the eligibility section very well again and again. But if you are not eligible, you are just wasting your time. For the ground.gov, if you open it, the first thing I just do control find. Control find foreign, non-US. It will take me to the eligibility section, whether we are eligible or not. So if I'm not eligible, I don't even bother to read it. I just go ahead. Unless you have a collaborator that is going to help you out. Because if you are not eligible, you are not eligible. So why waste time and energy? Because there are so many grants available at any point in time. There are so many. So let's say you are not eligible. You cannot go through the funding announcement properly, word for word. Don't skip. You need to read it in detail. If you have to sit down to do an exam on that, you just have to sit down so that you don't waste your energy, so that when you are applying appropriately. And sometimes by the time you are getting it, maybe it's too short, 2 weeks more, 4 weeks, you cannot meet it. Read about the grant cycles. Oh, okay, this comes twice a year, or once every year, or 3 times a year. Some of them have cycles. So I missed this particular cycle because it's about 2 or 3 weeks. I will wait, go and prepare very well, and plan for the next cycle. Then you can now read about the application strategies, what they really want, so that you can plan your grants in accordance to what they want, not what you want. It is what they want that matters. If we do what we want, then they will give us what we don't want. And sometimes we should be free to be able to talk to the program officers. There are many times, sometimes you have a grant, you are not sure whether you fit into the remit, the language is not clear. You can write the program officers. Either Welcome, Spencer, NIH. You can write, email them, give them a call, and I want to clarify 1 or 2 things. But usually, the moment you say that, they are going to ask you for your proposal, which is more like just your specific aim, which is about a page. So that should be ready. Sometimes some of them may even ask you, what's your budget range? So that's why it's always good to have that 1-page document, no matter how imperfect it is, ready. And you can be able to talk to them and say, okay, you have fit into this remit on it. So I said I'll use it because it's practically impossible for us to go throughout all the grant bodies, but the one that is more stringent, also funding that can be as high as some few millions, is the NIH grants. So, and they fund from undergraduate down to faculty and late career researchers. So it's so many, so various diversity. As you can see, this is just shows what they do from different grants, solicited and unsolicited. Yes, as I said, some of them are restricted to American citizens. So that's why the moment you see any one of these American grants, check the eligibility so that you don't waste your time and resources with respect to the grants. Now, what are the main types of NIH funding? Research grants, career development awards, research training, the T-series, program grants, cooperative grants, the U-series, and many more. I know in LASUCOM, we will probably also get there anytime, because you can go and check online those who have it easily. I think UNILAG is doing pretty well. UI is doing pretty well, and I'm sure that by God's grace we also get to get there. So, what is for NIH? So, the research organization must be eligible. We are in LASUCOM, we are in LASUT. Every individual that wants to be able to apply must be registered. So if you are not registered, there's no way. So let's say if somebody wants to collaborate with you now, and you are not registered, there's no way your name will be able to be attached or be part of that grant as a co-PI. Yeah, but sometimes some of us, we are sub-grantees, which is easy. Your name may not even be there. And if you're a sub-grantee or they bring the study from outside, the grants, and then you partake. And I think that's quite a number of us also enjoy that. But I think we can also step up to be able to be co-PI and PI. So we need to be registered, fully registered on the platform. Era Commons platform, that's for the NIH. And NIH also, they will demand for some audits, performance progress report. Most of the time, these are done by the research organization, that is LASUCOM, and which the organization have been doing pretty well with respect to this. So briefly, just to talk about the relatively small grants, so about $100,000, that would be the R03. These are the small ones. And so you have a pilot study, you have something that you are doing currently. Yeah, but if you are not an American citizen, that may be tight. But if it's innovative enough and you can justify why it can be done in Nigeria and not in US, then you have a chance. But if it is something that can be done, because you have to be able to justify that this can be, doesn't have to, it needs to be done in your locality. The advantages compared to it being done in the States. So that can be tricky at times for the R03 studies. Then we have the R21, R21. Generally, you don't need a preliminary data for the R21. But if you have a preliminary data, the better. Just a small pilot study that you have done before, no matter how small, it will help you out. But the R01, I think you have to have had definitely a preliminary study before you can apply for any R01 studies. This is important, even though it is low, medium income that is eligible. We must understand the basis. And then definitely R21, they're usually over $200,000 in direct cost. And R01 can be more than $500,000 and above. So again, we cannot overstate this. You see something that looks possible in line with your goals, with your research interest. Always check the geographical limitations. Is it for high income, low, medium income? Must you combine with someone from a high income? So that you are clear before you go and start applying, and then you are offline. The organization type, yeah, we are registered, so there's no problem with LASUCOM. Project duration, budget parameters. Always check the budget parameters. If you are too low, you will be cut off. if you overshoot, you will be cut off. So these are small errors that if we pay attention to, we can avoid. And if you are not sure, write, email them or call them. They will respond. So the moment this is done, I think we can write, because I'm going to try to restrict this to just partly to getting a grant. So I don't want to go beyond what my subdean said I should talk about. So, right, you have colleagues advise us to review your draft application to improve before you submit. Yeah, especially if you don't have any co-PI, get somebody to just, proofread this for me. Luckily for us now, we have so many AIs now that can help us to proofread, so that you are not making small typographical errors, which can get some assessors annoyed. And in fact, some assessors sometimes, at least for those who have been talking to me, that most of the time it is the specific aims that they actually read, especially when they are coming together for their group meeting to be able to decide which one to fund, because some may not read the full article or the full proposal. So it's always good to ensure that our specific aim is top-notch, without any error and straight to the point. Then you must submit to meet deadlines. Don't say that, they are supposed to submit today by 4 p.m. or you have that's when you are trying to see how you are going to please submit. Especially some of these grants, you still need a submitter in the organization to do it for you. So my advice always, why not make plan 2 weeks before the deadline, so that if there are any issues, some of these grant bodies, they can still get back to you and try to tell you, there are corrections here and there that you need to add. But when you do it at deadline, and there was one I was talking to the people that there was a time I put it in, and last minute, and then definitely they just few weeks down the line, they said I did not submit a particular document, and so it was dead. There is nothing. I just knew that it was dead. So we must try to meet deadlines. I always advise try and submit at least more than a week before the deadline. And no matter what, keep communication channels open with potential funders, no matter the outcome, and always be ready to tell them thank you and be prepared to answer their questions if they have issues. Like if you submit 1 or 2 weeks earlier and they have issues, don't respond to it politely and ask for details for things that you don't understand. Yes, will there be grant rejection? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. The answer is yes. And the answer is yes. Either you are Professor Bureje or you are the provost, you are going to have 1 or 2, not to talk of some of us that are still far away from them. So we must be ready to handle grant rejection. Don't take it personal. I mean, the competition is very fierce. Okay, and the selection criteria is also very stringent. But no matter what, anytime you get a feedback, passionately look at the reviewer's comments, and if possible, use it to revise and rework your application. And you can resend it to another grant body. There's no big deal about that. Okay. So always set up a debriefing meeting with the grantor if they offer it. Sometimes they offer, sometimes they don't offer. And if it's your team, you can have a meeting. Why did we fail here? Let's look at the reviewer's comment and now see what we can do to improve so that we are better. We submit a better proposal at the next available cycle. So we must always persist through disappointment. Rejection is part of the process. Keep trying, keep improving your applications. And when you have small successes, celebrate it. So there are some that they have stages. So if you pass stage 1 and don't pass stage 2, we celebrate stage 1. Oh, thank God I made it. I was among the 10 people that were selected, and even though we did not pass through stage 1, it's something that should be celebrated. So we should celebrate small successes. And again, we look for alternate funding sources as at when due. And then be focused. And remember, stay motivated to succeed eventually. In summary, we should chart our course, assess ourselves, strong areas, do our SWOT analysis, get our specific aim and start strategy ready. Or if ready, you have already applied somewhere before and it was rejected, but repeat that rejection and do it appropriately. Then commence your proactive searching. If you know the cycles, welcome comes out April every year and it will be out for 2 years. And my plan is to try to get early career grant for welcome. Then you start it now. And this is what, so if I've missed this year's zone, maybe that I have to have submitted by January, then I prepare for their next cycle, maybe next year. So we must be patient and be persistent. And then that will be all.